Okay, so here we are with the Cinefantastique podcast. I am Dan Persons. I am here with my colleagues, Steve Bedrowski. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Dan.
And Lawrence French. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. And this is our very first episode, and are you guys excited about it?
Very.
Yes, I am.
I am thrilled and excited just to trump you one, but not only for that, but also because guess why, guys?
Why?
Because even a man who is pure of heart and says his prayers by night can become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the harvest moon is bright.
Autumn moon.
Autumn moon. Sorry. Good Lord. Okay. I'm being nailed to the wall by the purists.
Right. I do have something to say about that poem later.
Well, you know what? I just want to say, because my thought about it was, there's nothing that screams pure, unalloyed horror like poetry. Isn't that correct? So the audience can probably guess that what we are going to be talking about on this episode is the brand new re-envisioning of the Wolfman, just out from Universal. And before we start, let's give a listen to the trailer.
She exerts enormous power, doesn't she?
Do you believe in curses?
Never look back, Lawrence. Never look back. The past is a wilderness of horrors.
Darkest hours of hell lie before you.
Run free. Kill or be killed. It is glorious, isn't it?
Watching the film, I was, let's say, dissatisfied about the goings on, and coming out of it, I was starting to feel a little more generous to it, and the thought struck me that if this was 50 years ago, and this was a Universal B programmer, and everything was period correct, all the effects and the makeup and stuff was suitable to the period, but if this was a Universal B programmer sometime circa 1950s, I'd be coming out of it going, that was pretty cool. The big problem is that, this is not, something to go on the lower half of the program. This is the big tentpole weekend release.
Yeah, I think you're right. I found myself, like you, somewhat dissatisfied with it. I enjoyed watching it because it looked very good, and I enjoyed the fact that it borrows from lots of sources. Although it's officially a remake of The Wolfman, it pulls in bits of Curse of the Werewolf and Werewolf of London, and you could probably spot a few other references here and there. But what struck me about it was it's co-written by the writer of Sleepy Hollow. The composer is Danny Elfman from Sleepy Hollow. Rick Heinrichs, the production designer of Sleepy Hollow, is on there, and I thought, why didn't they just get Tim Burton and turn it into a Tim Burton film? And I kind of think that's what's missing. Is the director, Joe Johnston, is a former special effects guy, and he's certainly technically competent, and working with all these high class professionals, he gets a really good looking movie up there. But there were only a few times where it really came to life, to the point where I felt that thrill of excitement that you expect. I mean, I was never really bored with it or actively disliking it. I just thought, this is okay. Like you said, a B-movie programmer, you'd say, yeah, not bad. But, all things considered, I thought, man, it didn't really fire on all cylinders in the way that makes you come out and say, I'm going to tell, all of my friends, you got to go see this movie.
Lawrence.
Yeah, I agree with Steve almost completely, except for I liked it a lot more probably than he did. But you have to remember, this was actually started by another director, Mark Romanek, and he's a big fan of Kubrick. So you can tell that he hired, the costume designer who worked for Kubrick, who's won about 10 Oscars. I'm exaggerating, but she's very good. And so I didn't have that problem, and I liked the fact that it brought in all those references to other horror movies, and it sort of it homogenized them into a whole that I thought worked really well. So you see the Curse of the Werewolf and all those references. So for a fan who likes all those things, I just, I loved it.
The problem that I have with Joe Johnston is that, watching the film, anytime Lawrence wolfs out, all of a sudden the film gets a shot of adrenaline. Those are the moments that clearly Joe Johnston is working for. And the rest, you never get really the sense that he is invested in the film. You never get the sense that there's a personal investment from him. The other thought I had coming out of this is that is it just not possible for anyone to do a classic Universal horror film? And you know what I'm talking about, the film with the atmosphere and the drama and all of that, and my friend said to me, you essentially want James Whale to start working again. And yeah, I want James Whale and a German emigre DP working on it. Yeah, exactly.
I think Steve is right, though. If Tim Burton had done it, it would probably be, you would have had that director connection. And, as you say, Joe Johnston isn't really, to use a highfalutin word, an auteur. So I think we needed a Tim Burton if you really wanted to get it over to that A level where the budget is at A level, but it's not at that A level of director. But everyone else is like A level. Rick Baker, they all have, 2 or 3 Academy Awards behind them.
Yeah. The interesting thing about what you say, Dan, about, recreating that aura of the past, in a way I think this film does unintentionally, because if you look at the Universal horror films from the 40s, they were past the point of hiring James Whale and auteurs. They were really into we're Universal, we got these properties we did in the 30s, let's grind them out again, and they'll be slick and well produced because, we got the money and the sets and the craftsmen to do it. But they were often lacking in inspiration. So in a way, I feel on an unintentional level, this is a real recreation of a Universal's 40s horror movie, for better or worse.
The ones where they were just cranking them out. That's
yeah.